All Bucs players are out, and in that same matchup, Ricky Pearsall is also out, but Chuba Hubbard is out as well. These are just a couple reasons I always wait until Fridays to go through every single matchup and identify the must-start and sit defenses in fantasy football for any week, and we're doing it for week 6. And I'm one of the only fantasy YouTubers who works on a Friday to go through defenses multiple times a week, so please go down there and drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now get into our first matchup. We've got another matchup overseas this week. It's the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. I think they're playing in London this week. So obviously, make sure your lineups are set on Saturday night or you get up very early on Sunday morning, because by the time you wake up, the Broncos are going to be beating the brakes off of the Jets, and that's why the Broncos are a must-play defense. They have not moved. They are still my number one defense in my rankings this week, and really there's a couple of reasons for it, because the Broncos defense I still view as a very, very good defense, possibly one of the more talented defenses in the league. They're the league leader in sacks right now. The Jets are not protecting their quarterback all too well. It's actually not the biggest problem that they have, but the Jets can't move the ball unless it's garbage time. But even this week, I have trouble kind of seeing the Jets capitalize on garbage time because the Broncos defense is just so strong. I envision them taking turnovers away when garbage time actually comes around to make them be a top tier play in fantasy football for defenses this week. Any way you cut this cake and however this game turns out, I think the Broncos are a great play defensively, and I would say the Jets, you can't play them either. Listen, I already don't like overseas matchups for any team, and the Broncos, I don't love it for them, but the Jets are just so dysfunctional, and they've got so many issues of their own that it makes it way more scary to play their defense, especially when you add on how bad they've looked defensively and how well the Denver Broncos offense is really starting to turn it up. So I have no interest in the Jets ever realistically as a defense, while the Broncos, I'm completely interested in as my number one defense this week. The Seattle Seahawks at the Jacksonville Jaguars. First of all, keep an eye on rain on this game. Looks like there could be some downpour. It is in Jacksonville, so that would make sense being that it is a Florida game. And I don't know what to think of either of these defenses. I was very honest about both defenses in my top 12 rankings this week, where they're both top 10 defenses in fantasy football right now. They both had their share of really dominant games. But with the Jags defense in particular, I just don't know what I can say about this defense other than the fact that they've got a ball-hawking secondary. They have 10 interceptions through 5 freaking games. That's 2 interceptions per game. That's just not, when it comes to scoring fantasy points for a defense, right? The more consistent number, and it's kind of, you can look at it as like yards for a running back or wide receiver being very consistent to get those. I would say that the more equivalent to that for defense is sacks. And when your sack number is as low as it is, 7 sacks through 5 games, I struggle to really consider you a true top-tier defense in the NFL and in fantasy football. And with the Seahawks, they're running so well right now, very efficient offensively, that it's hard for me to envision them giving the ball away a bunch. So I just, out of respect for the Jags, I consider them playable, not must start, because they're in my top 12 still. But that last tier, if you watch that defense ranking video on Tuesday, I'm not confident in any of them. And the Seahawks were a part of it as well. I like the Seahawks defense so much more than I like the Jags defense from a talent perspective. But at the same time, the Seahawks just came off a brutal week last week, and they're playing an offense that can move the ball. So I don't know what to think of either of these defenses. This is probably the toughest matchup of the week defensively from my perspective. So be careful with these two defenses. While I will say they are both playable and inside my top 12 still. Dropping down to our next matchup, the Chargers at the Miami Dolphins. So one team has tons of injuries. The other team has injuries as well. And I think they're just on the brink of firing their head coach. And that's really what it comes down to with this one, is I'd play the Chargers defense. They're still in my top 12 this week. They haven't budged yet. And I don't think it's because the Chargers are a great defense. I think when all their pieces are fully healthy, they're a very good defense. But the amount of injuries they've had offensively and defensively, kind of starting to feel like the year from hell a little bit, but they're still not down as bad as obviously Jim Harbaugh's brother, John Harbaugh in Baltimore, who will go through next matchup. But the Chargers defense just playing this offense with Miami, they've got talent and they have pieces to move the ball, and I think they're well coached offensively. But I don't think that this team is very good with Miami, first of all. And second of all, I think that they're very, very close to firing Mike McDaniels, and he's feeling the pressure. I mean, it's very clear if you watch the guy's press conferences. All that to say, I think the Chargers end up winning pretty decidedly in this game. And with the Dolphins defense, you don't really ever want to consider playing them too much, especially against the Chargers, even though there's weaknesses to take advantage of. The running game is going to be weak. The offensive line is already weak. There's advantages here and holes to take advantage of. I don't think that the Dolphins are going to do that to the Chargers this week, so I would bench them. The Los Angeles Rams at the Baltimore Ravens, I discussed it just a couple minutes ago. This is an obvious one, though. You play the Rams defense because they're playing a backup quarterback this week. Whether it's Cooper Rush, it will be Cooper Rush. There was a little bit of talk about Tyler Snoop Hundley. I don't think that's going to happen. It doesn't look like that at this point, that's for sure. So Cooper Rush is going to be the guy that they're going to play, and based off last week, he's pretty turnover prone. And I think that the Rams are going to get out to such an early lead that they're going to have to take chances to get back into this game, and that's what leads to pickoffs. And I think the Rams' one weakness is that secondary. I don't think it becomes an issue this week, and they dominate at the front seven as well because they've done that to a lot of teams this year. And with the Ravens defense, I'm done defending them. They're a terrible defense. They're totally ravaged with injuries, and the Rams offense looks way too good to consider playing against, a Rams offense like this. Like the Ravens defense, you stay far, far away from. But I will tell you this. If you're still deciding between defenses, like if you have the Jags or the Seahawks and you want to decide between a different matchup, this is where our automatic waiver wire tool completely changes the game. We've gotten so many testimonials from people about how it's pissing off their league mates because they're beating them on the wire consistently now with our tool, because always what happens is there's a mad dash to the waiver wires, all those players get claimed, and then at 3 a.m. after waivers process, everybody wakes themselves up in competitive leagues to go grab the rest of the best players. Our system automates that, so you can sleep through the night and still beat all the yahoos getting up at 3 a.m. to go grab players. So go utilize that by signing up for the premium subscription on fsroundup.com. You'll also see my top 250 rankings on a weekly basis and get access to so many other features that are saving people's teams in 2025.
This is Ted. Look at him. Ted desperately needs to pick up a new running back, or his fantasy team is toast. For the 3rd year in a row. And losing his season again means one thing.
Oh no.
Don't be Ted. Use Fantasy Football Roundup to automate your waiver pickups and rest easy this season. Huh. Look at him.
Now, in our next matchup here, I've got the Arizona Cardinals at the Indianapolis Colts, and this one feels pretty obvious too. Indianapolis defense, the way they've been playing defensively is already a good reason to play them. They're also at home, and they're playing against an offense that, realistically, I don't think they're going to look as bad as they were last week. I just think that the Cardinals are one of those hot and cold teams, and they're very cold right now. And Kyler Murray, I do believe, plays. As of the time of this filming, we still don't know for sure, but I think he plays. But even if he doesn't, even if he does play, I just don't know if I can see them being that good and putting up more than 15 or 17 points on the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts defense actually is really good right now. They're playing really good, so you don't want to mess with that if you've got them. And then the Cardinals defense you don't play because the Colts are probably a top 3 efficient offense in the NFL right now. They're masking so many of Daniel Jones' weaknesses that you almost can't even recognize the player a little bit. Their running game is working well. The passing game is working well. They're keeping Daniel Jones upright. There's no holes that you can poke through if you're the Cardinals defense. And based on the team morale right now, I don't want to take a shot on it. The Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers is our next matchup. And the Cowboys defense is playable. I am not putting them in my top 12. They're not that close to my top 12, but I will say they're in the teens because the Panthers offense sucks. I mean, Bryce Young cannot play real football unless he plays the Miami Dolphins defense. And the Cowboys defense is bad too. So that's the reason why I wouldn't put the Cowboys defense in must-start territory. But they're playable because the Panthers are so bad offensively. Now, Rico Dowdle offers his own set of problems for the Dallas Cowboys defense. So again, if you're deciding between the Jags and the Cowboys or the Seahawks and the Cowboys, those are all like logical things to maybe debate on. But at the end of the day, I'm going to pick the better defenses, the Jags and the Seahawks, over the Dallas Cowboys because the Cowboys defense just isn't very good and they're only winning in shootouts. So I don't see maybe that big of a shootout, but if the Panthers put up 24 plus points, it wouldn't shock me against this defense. So they're playable, but not a high upside play. And the Panthers defense you stay far away from. Already the Panthers defense stinks, but the Cowboys offense is running so freaking well right now. It's like almost impossible to stop. Like, that's how well they're running. And I don't think Dak is getting the credit he deserves this year. He looks really, really good. Javonte Williams looks really good. George Pickens looks really good. Jake Ferguson looks really good. The offensive line is holding up pretty well. So, like, there's just no angle here for me to tell you the Panthers are a playable defense. The New England Patriots at the New Orleans Saints is our next matchup. And the Patriots remain in my top 12 and a must-start defense. Look, I actually have been impressed with the Saints this year. They actually have moved the ball very efficiently this year, but the reality is they just are deprived of talent. And that's the ultimate bottom line here, is that I think the Patriots, what happens in this one, is that they end up getting to a big lead, and then the Saints play catch up, maybe make a mistake or two, or just are not talented enough to get enough scores to keep up with the Patriots. The Patriots defense has been good in fantasy this year. A lot of it's because of a strong schedule, but the way they just played the Bills, very, very impressive. So I am definitely on top of the Patriots defense this week against the New Orleans Saints, and I do think the Saints are somewhat playable. They're at the lower end of playable. I'd play the Cowboys over them. I'd play the Jags over them. I'd play the Seahawks over them, but I will say this. That defense, I do think, is taking on an offense that is it is just not debatable. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They're making mistakes on a weekly basis. The Patriots offense is. They're turning the ball over. They're getting dumb penalties to put them in bad positions on certain drives. There's an angle here for the Saints defense, and I don't think their defense is very good, but I will say this, I do think they're good enough to possibly get a couple turnovers off of the Patriots offense, and if that happens, the Saints end up being a decent play this week, but again, not one I would play over the Dallas Cowboys. I'd play the Cowboys over them. The Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are must start still to me, just because of the turnover factor. And with the Steelers defense, that's always going to be a problem for offenses because they do come up with big plays. They get after the quarterback. They blitz really well. They're a defense that takes the ball away on interceptions, on fumbles. They make big plays, and they will get after Dylan Gabriel because the offensive line hasn't been dominant for the Cleveland Browns, and the Steelers' front seven is getting healthier coming off that bye week. So I do see the Steelers' defense as a really good play this week, but I don't think the Browns are a bad play at all. They're actually ranked number 13 as my defense this week, so bonus tip for you, I like the Browns this week, but I will say this, the Steelers' offense coming off a bye week, not exactly the best opportunity you want to take advantage of, but the Browns defense, the way they've played, and the Steelers are just kind of a weekly offense to where it's like you don't know what to expect from them, and after the bye week, it's kind of, curious what it looks like. The Browns are not top 12, but they're absolutely playable in this game. And I wouldn't fault you if you had a feeling on this one and you wanted to play them over the Jags or the Seahawks, for example. I wouldn't fault you. I wouldn't do it, but I would not fault you if you wanted to do it because the Browns defense overall has looked pretty good this year, and the Steelers are still not a high-powered offense. They still have offensive concerns and offensive issues, and they're sluggish. So I do think the Browns are certainly playable in this matchup, but not inside my top 12 and not a must-start defense. The Tennessee Titans at the Las Vegas Raiders is our next matchup here, and the Titans defense, I said it earlier in the week, I can't envision not having the Titans defense inside the top 12 for a couple of reasons. They're still there exactly where they were ranked originally. I think the Titans defense is a really solid play this week because I've been saying this all year and they've really done me dirty for saying this, but I'm going to say it again because they came through last week. That defense has dudes on it. Like they really, really do. So I do think that the Titans defense is a defense that has talent. And number two, they're taking on an offense that is going to continue to play Geno Smith. And he's going to continue to make mistakes. And they're just not that good otherwise. Like Brock Bowers is probably not going to play again. And I can't see the Titans giving up more than 20 points. And even if they do, there's going to be turnovers attached to this one. So I think the Titans defense is a solid play this week. And the Raiders defense is also in the top 12 still, because the Titans offense is also not good as well. They have even less talent than the Las Vegas Raiders do, and their quarterback is almost, not there yet, but he's almost as turnover prone as Geno Smith. I think the Raiders have less talent defensively. Like, if you look outside of Max Crosby, what do they really have defensively talent-wise? They're not that good, and Pete Carroll has not come in and done as much work with this defense as I thought that he would. So they're not good. But I will say, again, the matchup is just too good to overlook. So I consider them playable. I'd play them over the Cowboys defense. I'd play them over the Saints defense. I'd play them over the Browns defense. But I wouldn't play them over the Seahawks or the Jags defense right there because they just don't have the talent that those defenses have. The San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is our next matchup. And the 49ers defense is playable because there's a lot of injuries on both sides. So it basically becomes like even Steven when you factor in the Bucs and the amount of guys they're missing. And the 49ers as well, not just defensively, but offensively. They're missing tons of pieces. So there's a lot of backup on backup matchups this week to watch for. And the Bucs offense at the same time, I don't see how that Baker Mayfield doesn't do well because the guy is playing out of his freaking mind right now. So the 49ers are nowhere close to must start. They're at the bottom end of the teens in my rankings, but I will tell you this, the 49ers defense does have Robert Saleh, and I like him a lot, and they're coming off basically a mini bye week. So they have a little bit of an edge here on the Buccaneers, if there is one, and I think it's a very, very evenly matched matchup. So I'm going to lean towards not playing the 49ers over a defense like the Raiders or even the Dallas Cowboys or the Saints. But I do think the 49ers are playable, and there's just no way you could convince me, even with the amount of starters the 49ers are missing, that the Bucs defense is a defense that you can play. I do not think that they are. The Bucs are giving up tons of points, and I've been saying this all week. Baker is winning in spite of that defense, and he's not getting the credit for it. He's an MVP candidate in spite of a bad defense. And he's going to continue to be so because even this week, if it's Mac Jones or if it's Brock Purdy, they're going to continue to move the ball because Kyle Shanahan's a good coach and their offense is actually built with two good quarterbacks right now. So it doesn't matter who's who in the starting matchup. I don't want to play the Bucs defense. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Green Bay Packers feels obvious, but I will touch on something really quick. Obviously, you play the Packers defense because they're coming off a bye week. It's in Lambeau Field, and the Bengals offense has done basically nothing outside of one, couple of garbage time drives at the end of the game last week. But realistically, guys, the Bengals offense is so bad, and Joe Flacco is not going to do much better than Browning because they won't protect him. All he does is drop back, and he becomes a statue. He can't move. And so they're not going to protect him any better. The one thing I'll say about this one, though, is the Packers, they've proven a couple times this year, they're not great about closing out games because they're a young team. That's the only thing I'm going to say about the Packers defense, but I think the talent is so overwhelming in this one, and especially if Jamar Chase doesn't play, the Packers are easily a must-start defense with or without Jamar Chase, and the Bengals, you come nowhere close to playing them. The Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs are Sunday night game before the doubleheader Monday night. So stupid. You don't play either defense here because I just think that this is a very unique combination, right? The Lions defense, I've highlighted this for a couple weeks now. They're unfortunately starting to look a lot like last year, which was fine up until they were dealing with tons of injuries. That defensive side of the ball is getting ravaged with injuries, both to the backups and starters. So that's one thing to keep in mind here. And the Chiefs as well are a desperate team. They need to win now. And I think that in Kansas City, that's a tough matchup to see playing that offense in, and especially considering if you take out that one mistake Mahomes made last week, he has played lights out football with very little options. And it's the same case this week. So I'm not playing the Lions defense, and I'm not playing the Chiefs, that's for sure, because as efficient as the Lions offense has looked, I don't want anything to do with either defense in this matchup. It's best to just stay away from both options. The Buffalo Bills at the Atlanta Falcons, the first of the Monday night doubleheader. I'm not going to stop. Who is asking for these freaking doubleheaders on Monday night? It is so dumb. This is so stupid because they're both actually good games, and I don't want to play either defense. I considered putting the Bills as a playable low-end play option. I'm not doing it, though, because I do think the Bills, their defense has looked bad. They're depleted as well with suspensions on the front seven, with injuries on the whole defense. Like, they're just not very good right now. And the Falcons coming off a bye week, in theory, could end up having a good game. But the reason I considered making them playable is because the Falcons offense, I do not trust them. I do not trust this offense. That offensive coordinator, I think, stinks. And I think that Penix is just not set in stone yet as a really good quarterback. So I'm a little weary of this matchup. I think the Bills could have sneaky upside, but I'm not going to say that you should play them this week because I think there's better options. And the Falcons defense, you don't play them because as bad as the Bills defense has been, Josh Allen still looks like an MVP candidate this year. You do not play a defense that is playing the Buffalo Bills right now. The Chicago Bears at the Washington Commanders, the last Monday night game in this stupid doubleheader, and the Commanders are playable. Like, I get it. The Bears are coming off a bye week, and it should benefit them. I just don't know about this offense yet. I really don't. I think Caleb is still making dumb mistakes, and I think there's an edge here for the Commanders being at home. And with the Commanders' defense, they have life after last week playing against a really good offense that was torturing teams up until that point. And then they came in and shut them down. Like, there's an edge here, I think, with the Commanders' defense this week that is playable. Now, I wouldn't say that they're a top-tier play. I'd play the Browns over them. But I play them over the Saints defense, so I think they're playable this week. And the Bears defense, I'm not going to touch them because Jaden Daniels changes everything. Everything. They don't have Terry again this week. I don't think it really matters that much. I mean, it matters because, like, they're losing a good option. But at the same time, man, he came out and he put up 27 points on the Chargers last week without Terry, too. Jaden Daniels is just that freaking good, and I don't want to mess with him with a defense in fantasy football. So let me know what defense you're targeting this week, and if you want to see the top 12 defense rankings for Week 6 fantasy football, click on this video right here.